and hope that everyone certainly feels invited to join us in the parlor immediately after worship. Paul has brought a video with him about the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and then after the program we'll share together a meal. We thank all the mission committee for helping to prepare that and to make this day possible. We often say in the life of our church that we are a global mission church. It's one of the things that defines us, and it helps us to be intentional about learning about the world and being a part of the work that's happening across the world through our global ministries. And today we have with us Paul Turner. I had the privilege of sharing with him last night, and I'm sure that you will appreciate the things that he has to say about his 4-year term in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. He is married to Kyrene, and she is in the Congo, and he will be returning in 2 weeks. 2 weeks to go back to the Congo. They have a 2-year-old son named Nehemiah, and he is staying with Paul's mother in Los Angeles, California, where Paul grew up, and before becoming a long-term global mission worker in the global ministries, he worked in some inner-city missions and especially homeless shelters in Los Angeles. So he has a wide experience. One of the things that I would say about his position also is that it used to be that we had a lot of people in the mission field because it was well supported. But Paul actually raised the money from friends and from other types of fundraising to be able to take 4 years in the Congo because all the positions that were paid were full. So he went the extra mile to create the position that he's in. And we also want to thank him for being here because it's an important link for us being a global mission church. So I want to welcome Paul to Trinity.
Thank you very much, Pastor Kevin, for that gracious introduction. Good morning to you all. I'm happy to be here to celebrate yesterday, which was the last day of summer, and today, the first day of autumn, I believe. And again, anytime I come before congregations, it's an opportunity for me to say thank you for your support and your generosity to One Great Hour of Sharing, and for your support of global ministries. As you know, the full name of Global Ministries is the Common Global Ministries of the United Church of Christ and the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, 2 denominations that have come together to share in their global mission activities. I also want to thank you so much for the hospitality that I've experienced here as a guest at the Ritz Lalonde last evening. We had a wonderful conversation about how this is Amish country in some ways, and talked about my experience going to graduate school in Pennsylvania and learning a lot about the Amish fare and food, and how I love the rotisserie chicken and the baked pies that the Amish community would sell in Center City, Philadelphia. I had no idea that that conversation would lead to the actual dinner menu I had last night. So it was quite a wonderful thing. So the word is out that there's no hospitality like Worcester hospitality. And so I want to thank you all for that, and again for being a global mission church. Will you join me in a word of prayer? Gracious God, we thank you for this opportunity to learn about your mission in the world. Lord God, we are grateful that we can lock arms with others so far away, showing that you are truly an omnipresent God, that you are the same God on every continent. And so, dear God, as we come to learn and to share, we pray that your Spirit would be with us. And we thank you again for this global mission church, a church that not only is bound by their own interests, but in the interests of advancing the ministry of Jesus Christ. We give you thanks and praise. In Jesus' name, amen. So as Pastor said, my name is Paul Turner, and for the last 4 years, I've served as your mission co-worker in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, serving with the community of disciples of Christ in Congo, for which there are now 800,000 members. And that makes the Disciples of Christ in Congo much larger than the Disciples of Christ we have here in the United States. It includes over 358 churches and 35 posts. And the church in the Democratic Republic of the Congo is responsible for much of the social safety net in that country. Because if you're familiar with the history and the background of the country, it has had kind of a tragic past. The Congo started out as a personal property in the 1870s of King Leopold of Belgium. And King Leopold ruled it as his own personal possession, taking away any source of wealth that he could in ivory and rubber, and committing lots of atrocities amongst the people in the Congo, so much so that even Mark Twain wrote about it. And it caused a massive movement around the world to rise up against the Belgian king's treatment of people in Congo, so much so that the government of Congo then took it over as a colony. And so most of you may recall the Belgian Congo for many years during its colonial rule. The Belgian Congo was then followed up by a period of brutal dictatorship under Mobutu after independence in 1960. And after he was removed in 1997, it has basically been undemocratic. We could call it a kleptocracy because as a kleptomaniac, everything is stolen from the country, and that was Mobutu's rule. Of course, it's one of the poorest countries in the world, but at the same time, it's also one of the richest. If you count the mineral wealth that is in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, it amounts to almost $25 trillion, yet none of that goes to the people. Because again, of massive corruption, negligence, and kleptocracy. Yet, so it's not surprising that the church is perhaps the only trusted institution remaining in that country. So the community of Disciples of Christ in the Congo is responsible for many of the social needs in terms of education, healthcare, clean water, sanitation, income generating, job training, agricultural, food security, and adaptation to the changes in the climate that's happening today. The way we do mission at Global Ministries is not the way that you would often think mission is done. And we've done a lot to kind of unpack that baggage, which is why I'm not a missionary. I am a co-mission worker, which means I work in partnership with our global partners all over the world. At Global Ministries, we understand that we don't need to go out into the world and plant churches. We understand that the church of Jesus is everywhere in the world, and what those churches require is for us to come alongside them and to support them and help them and walk with them in some of the challenges and hopes that they have as a ministry. And so we respond to requests. We don't go anywhere in the world where we're not invited. And we have to be invited before anyone is sent from the U.S. to work with one of our partners, for which there are over 130 partners in 90 countries. And so in the case of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Community of Disciples of Christ put out an invitation that they needed someone to come and walk alongside them to help them with this portfolio of development projects that they undertake to meet the needs of its people. And so I responded to that request and was sent on behalf of Global Ministries to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So again, we only go where we have an invitation. We understand that the way mission is done today is done in partnership. It's not about saying, well, we feel led to be in this country and to help those people, but it's understanding that the church is in existence everywhere, and we can partner with those churches and have a sense of equity about what we do and how we walk together, so no one is higher or lower than the others. But achieving this genuine sense of partnership is how mission is done today. So a couple of things I want to touch on as Global Ministries. We are led by our values, and we have 5 core essential values. One is community, mutuality, justice, peace, and presence. In terms of community, just to paraphrase, we are talking about community as building interdependence and unity with our partners. Just as UCC and DOC have come together in a spirit of partnership, we extend that partnership to our churches overseas that we work with. I can give an example of community. One of the best examples I have is how in the world today we have over 2.5 billion people who don't have access to clean, safe drinking water on a daily basis. The church in Edmond, Oklahoma, and in Oklahoma there's a lot of oil drilling, as you know, and the church got together with decided that rather than drilling for oil, they would drill for water. And they came up with a patented way to pump water from boreholes so that young children could operate the pumps, so they wouldn't have to lower buckets in the hole and pull it up. So these pumps are installed in wells so that it makes it easier for the community to draw water. The church in Oklahoma got together with this organization called Water For. They created something called Disciples for Water. They then trained a team in the Democratic Republic of the Congo with the Disciples of Christ, and they have now created over 35 pumps and wells in communities throughout the equatorial forest in the Congo. That means that 40,000 people who didn't have access to clean, safe drinking water before now have access to it because of this new global community that starts in Oklahoma, comes to Equateur, working with the disciples, and then extends itself to the local community that's benefiting. And whenever we do anything with the local community, it really is with them. They participate in the process. So the local community must provide funding, it must provide lodging, it must provide food for the team, and they have to provide people to be trained as well to help with the project and to learn how to repair it after the main crew has left. So that really is a great example of interdependence and unity coming together, forming their own community around safe drinking water. So community of building interdependence and unity. The second one is mutuality, which simply means walking in the hopes of others in God's mission. And that's essential. How we walk in the hopes of others, not our hopes, but in the hopes that the community has where we're serving. I said before that 2.5 billion people didn't have access to clean drinking water. Another statistic I'll throw at you is that 4.5 billion people suffer from one of the largest disabilities in the world. And as you can see, I have it, and I see a few of us have it in this congregation. Can anybody guess what it is? Yes, eyeglasses. So 4.5 billion people around the world suffer from vision impairment. And this is one of the largest unaddressed disabilities in the world. And it's also true in the community that I served in Equateur, in the city called Bendaka, where we didn't have an ophthalmologist, we didn't have an optometrist, and the local clinic and hospital didn't have the means to provide eye exams. So when the opportunity came for people in the town to go and have free eye examinations and eyeglasses offered by the Catholic Church in a faraway village, many people jumped on boats for the chance to have an opportunity to get eyeglasses and eye exams, and unfortunately there was an accident that happened on the river, and many people were injured. And so Dr. Basolo, the Disciples Health Director, said, well, what can we do to make sure that we can provide this service here locally? After some investigation, we hooked up with an organization called Vision Spring, based in New York. And Vision Spring had done a study and said that giving away donated eyeglasses is simply not sustainable. And what is sustainable is to provide new eyeglasses at an affordable price for people in the community. So we decided we would do a market research survey, and I asked people in the community, how much do you think a new pair of eyeglasses would cost? Now, to those of us here, we would think a new pair would cost anywhere from $250 to $175 and on up. But in the Congo, they said they thought a new pair of eyeglasses might cost as much as $20 or $30. I then asked them, well, how much would you be willing to pay, or could you pay for a pair of new glasses? And they said, well, I think I could afford to save up to $20 or $30, or maybe what I could only afford, maybe half of that, maybe $10. So through our partnership with Vision Spring, they sold us eyeglasses so that we could mark it up at a price that was affordable for the people. So Vision Spring provided us 2,500 pairs of brand new factory direct eyeglasses for 70 cents each. And with that 70 cents, we were able to sell the eyeglasses for $3. And with $1, we could afford to buy another pair of glasses. With the second $1, we could cover our overhead and administrative costs. And with the third $1, we could put it aside to establish an eye care clinic at Bolinge Hospital and hire an ophthalmologist and an optometrist full time. Again, walking in the hopes of others in God's mission and doing what the partner sees as valuable. This is also an example of a social enterprise. That is an enterprise that started not for the sake of profit maximization, but to earn a profit that can be reinvested back into the mission and to meet a need in the community. The third value is justice. And as a social justice advocate since my days in college, I understood what it means to be an advocate for justice. I came to college as an anti-apartheid activist, and that was my first exposure to global ministries, because while I was on campus at Bethany College, we had a representative from the South African Embassy debate the Africa executive from Global Ministries, and that was my introduction to how my church was so involved in advocacy and justice work around the world. And so what I've learned, though, since then is that justice is not only speaking truth to power, but it also involves the integrity of creation. Because a lot of the injustices that we have now is about affecting the planet. And so climate change is a real thing, let me tell you. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, in the middle of the equatorial forest, we see the effects of the rising tides of floods and rivers. The Congo River, which is a source of protein in fish for the people, is up when it should be low, and it's low when it should be up. And because of massive flooding, it's flooding fields and homes, which has a direct impact on the food supply. And so it's important then that the church in the Congo is helping its community to adapt to the changes in this climate, to plant things like more corn and to have other sources of protein other than fish, to raise chickens and other livestock. So we created an agricultural training center supported by Global Ministries and also supported by the community of Disciples of Christ to pass on and transform the know-how of how to plant and do things differently in order to provide food security in the face of ongoing climate change. The fourth, I said, is peace, and that means lifting up opportunities for reconciling relationships with God, humanity, and creation. And the Congo is a place that has scarcely known peace. We have, for decades now, conflicts raging in the eastern part of the country, beginning with the 1994 genocide in Rwanda, where the Hutu minority began to slaughter Tutsis, and then the Tutsi armies came and chased the Hutus across the eastern part of Congo, and there has been conflicts there ever since. Not only was it about an ethnic conflict, but then it became a free-for-all grab of minerals in Congo. As I said before, $25 trillion worth of copper, gold, diamonds, magnesium, uranium, cobalt, coltan. Does anybody know what coltan is? It is a precious mineral because without coltan, and by the way, the Congo has 70% of the world's known reserves of coltan. And without coltan, your cell phone does not charge. Without coltan, your laptop computer does not charge. Without coltan, your electric vehicle does not charge. And so coltan is the primary mineral that we all have a direct link with that we use every day, our cell phones. And so our cell phone use has a direct correlation with the conflicts happening in eastern Congo right now between 70 armed militia groups. These 70 armed militia groups and other armies have made it very difficult to address the ongoing Ebola crisis that's happening in the same area. Right now, the Ebola crisis in East Africa is now the second largest outbreak in history, over 2,000 deaths. And it's an ongoing, the cases are continuing to increase, and that's where my wife Corinne is serving with the United Nations as a National Program Officer for Risk Communication. And she's on the border helping to stop the spread of Ebola. And we will be working together because we had a similar outbreak last year where we lived. But the church, working together with the international community, was able to stop the spread of Ebola within 4 months. Gives you a sense of how disrupting conflict and war really is when it comes to responding to a health emergency. Because war is not the achievement of peace through other means. It is a disruptor and it is development in reverse. So peace is very important, reconciliation of relationships, and in our case, to stop the spread of the deadly virus of Ebola. Now I would say that last year when the Ebola virus broke out in Equateur, the church was very instrumental because it changed and modified its behavior before the people. Now, as disciples, we have communion every Sunday, unlike UCC. But because they decided to maintain their celebration of the Lord's Supper every week, they did it a different way. They had hand washing stations in the front of the church. People washed their hands. They took hand sanitizer. They partook of the bread. They took the cup. They put it in the receptacle, and then they went back to their seats instead of passing the trays. They did that throughout the time of the outbreak. And so the outbreak was declared over after 4 months. And as you think about it, the church modifying its behavior in that way reinforced the message that the people had to go back home, go back to their communities, and continue to modify their behavior. And whenever other voices would raise up to tell them, you shouldn't think about that thing, it's just made up, it's fake news, they would say, no, my church is continuing to modify its behavior. I must do the same. And so communion, the celebration of communion, became a source of resilience for the community to beat back the spread of Ebola. The last value I'll share with you is one of presence. And presence is a bold vision of togetherness to share personally in times of challenge and joy. And I must say that this value is one that I even underappreciated and underestimated. Because when I talked to people in Ecuador, they said, where are you from? And I said, I was from the United States. They were shocked that someone from the United States would want to live among them. In fact, they thought I would be gone in a week or that I was leaving in 2 weeks. And when I said that, no, I'm here to stay, they would go, wow, you're here to live with us? We're poor, we don't have electricity. Why would you come here? I said, because I am your brother. I am here. My church sent me to be with you. Because we are in the same church. Because we all love God. Because you are part of us. And after they soak that in, a sense of welcome, a sense of pride, a sense of dignity washed over them. And they were so appreciative that someone from the United States would want to live among them. That's the power of presence. This past summer, I was working in several youth camps, and one of the curriculums was called Peaceworks. And what I loved about Peaceworks is that each day we focused on a different word that was somewhat related to peace. Words like aloha, ubuntu, shalom, hewa, and agape. Aloha, of course, is that Hawaiian expression of welcome and hospitality, which means hello and goodbye. It's something that I experienced on my 4-day journey along the river into a village of Buguru, where the entire village came and greeted us. Ubuntu is that Swahili word which says, I am because you are, that wonderful expression of community that I felt as part of the Arc-en-Ciel chorale at my church. Shalom, of course, is peace, but it means more than peace. It means wholeness and completeness, not just the absence of conflict. And then Heiwa is a Japanese word that means peace and harmony, or to bring in balance. And I think about the intersection between loving God with all your heart, with all your mind, with your soul and strength, and loving your neighbor as yourself. The intersection of that is what we call mission. And then, of course, agape, which is God's unconditional love expressed by the presence of Jesus Christ with humanity. Our Emmanuel, God with us. How could I have undervalued the importance of presence when God himself chose presence as his ultimate expression of love for us? In conclusion, I would say that the community of disciples of Christ in Congo exhibited all these qualities of Peaceworks and of the greatest commandment in response to the migration that was happening in the country because of conflicts and climate change, when new people, new faces began to come into its territory. The community of disciples of Christ didn't respond by saying, these people don't know our language, they're not from our province, they're not of our tribe. But the people there served them anyway. They sent the boat ambulance to go out and meet their medical needs and support them and provide them with opportunities to have access to markets. They didn't tell them to go back where they come from, but instead they shared their meals with them and made them part of their community. I want to say thank you again for your support of local ministries. Thank you once again for your hospitality. And I believe that as we celebrate 120 years of our partnership with the Democratic Republic of the Congo, I share with them that our partnerships will continue as long as we adhere to these values of peace, love, and mutuality, justice, and community. Thank you. God bless you.